Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Mark Luckenball with Local Client Takeover. Really excited to have you join me for the multi-location takeover series. This is basically, we're starting with Volume 1 lead gen properties, but essentially this is going to turn into a series of modules covering a lot of different components within multi-location marketing. So we're going to talk about lead gen and rank and rent first and foremost because I think it's going to be of most use to the group. A lot of these strategies can be applied to, helping your current clients expand, or if they do have multiple locations, if you want to just do lead gen properties and own the asset, I think it's the best place to start. Essentially, I'd like to move into a couple cool client acquisition tricks for larger companies, franchises, multi-location businesses, etc. I want to cover some more, I guess, scaled out lead gen, spammy or black hat stuff just to, get the phone ringing short term. So essentially, I want this to grow into a more robust training series. We're going to start with the lead gen properties module, and this is just going to be a quick overview video of what we're going to cover. I'm going to move pretty quickly through this because a lot of this is going to be review. It's just a few of the I guess the subtleties, the few little tweaks and changes we made, to a typical campaign to kind of allow it to apply to multi-location to make it a little more scalable. We're going to cover a lot of the obstacles here. A lot of people just jump into these projects and they bite off more than they can chew. So we're going to start off in video 1, module 1, whatever, with foundational intelligence, and we're going to talk about niche selection here, and that might sound like this isn't going to be a typical niche selection lecture. It's going to be very we have to put it in perspective when we're scaling out campaigns like this. We have to make sure we're selecting niches that are going to sell fast, can offer an ROI to their can offer an ROI to the businesses in the best possible manner. We don't want to sell sticks of bubblegum here. Different things like domain selection, just stuff like that. And in the second video, I want to go over site architecture. This is really important. This is probably one of the most asked questions we get, is how to set up the site in general for multi-location projects. So really excited to get into that. We can get a lot of those questions answered. Module 3, we're going over content and extras. It's just a lot of things. There's multiple ways of doing anything in this industry, in any industry really, but some people set their sites up just as a churn and burn, or they just want to generate some leads, or it's the only purpose is to generate phone calls. And we started experimenting with a more advanced setup where the main goal isn't just lead gen, isn't just to monetize in a rank and rent or lead gen type of business model, but to essentially look very genuine, like a real growing company with multiple locations, and actually get enough of the organic market share where a larger company, a niche authority entertains an actual buyout of the property because it looks very legitimate, and it's starting to really monopolize some of the organic real estate. So we're going to throw in the extras if you guys want to take that extra step and make it look really great and just really make an impression in the niche. We have a pretty good formula for that. And then in the final video, I'm going to show you guys some really cool link building stuff. It's pretty straightforward, but it's a pretty formulaic process for these multi-location situations, and it's just pretty cool. Again, a lot of it can be applied to any site. It's just sometimes just because of the size of these properties, people get a little overwhelmed, and they just need a step-by-step to get started. So we're going to give you that, and essentially that's it. So we're going to run through this stuff. Again, these videos aren't going to be very long. Most of them are probably going to be well under 10 minutes, but it'll really get you guys started in the right direction. And for us, this has become more the future of lead gen. We still diversify with some smaller sites, but even our quote-unquote single single location sites now encompass a main city, multiple surrounding suburbs and towns. We want to monopolize and kind of consume as much of that local real estate as possible, because it becomes more valuable for a partner or a client, or an acquisition, which isn't quite as typical in that specific situation, but for argument's sake. So I encourage everyone to start expanding and, doing a traffic grab in the surrounding areas, and the multi-location training should get you guys on the right track. So I'll catch you in the next video, guys. Thanks. Hey guys, welcome back. Video 1, want to go over foundational intelligence, and a lot of this stuff is probably going to be common sense for most of you. It's a little bit basic, a little bit boring, but let's jump right into it, keep it as concise as possible, and we can get this knocked out and get on to the fun stuff. So essentially, there's a few things we have to remember when the initial planning stages. So a lot of people want to create a multi-location lead gen property site, whatever, and they don't really want to go the SERP shaker type route where you're generating just 30,000 page websites of spam, and you run into indexation issues and everything else, all the other pain points that come with that type of setup. So they say, okay, we want to do the top 100 cities, the top 250 cities, top 50 cities, and that's fine. What you have to keep in mind is the investment is going to be equal to the competitiveness of the niche. Okay, I mean, obviously that makes sense. So people that want to jump in and say, hey, it sounds good, from what you can essentially make from it, to say, hey, I want to rank for personal injury attorney in the biggest 100, the 100 largest cities in the United States, and they invest in development, and they get this 100 location, 100 location page site built out, targeting these terms, and they start to optimize and do the work, and they realize it's becoming a money pit, and they didn't really calculate for that type of investment. So um, definitely make sure your expectations are going to be realistic. Make sure they match the budget. So I'm not saying don't go for attorney, but or personal injury attorney, or anything highly competitive that's going to take a decent chunk of coin to rank. I'm saying make sure you take it, instead of saying, hey, we're going to throw all this money into just start pushing 100 pages up the SERPs. You may dial back and say, hey, we're going to start with 1, we're going to start with 5. Go as slow as you need, and that's really important. Start with 1, and once it gets rented out for 3, 4, 5, 10,000 a month, depending which city it's in, reinvest that and say, okay, now we're gonna do 5, and then once you get a few of those rented, hey, we're gonna do 10, and grow it like a real business. It's not a get rich quick thing, and it can definitely take some money. We were in a home improvement niche, and I've within a few months, I mean, it's really easy to throw. I mean, I threw 10, 20,000 at that in a few months, and it's really easy just to really really have your expenses add up on that stuff when you're ranking so many pages. So keep that in mind. Make sure to set your macro goals early in the planning stage. So is this something, like I spoke about in the intro video, is this something we're going to essentially try to position and eat up a bunch of market share, and line up an acquisition with a niche authority? Do you just want to supplement some of an existing partner or client's leads? Do you want to just, build a 10 page, 10 location site, and, drum up some business for your area? What's the goal? Make sure you set that early on. Make sure it's conducive with your expectations. Everything's realistic. You're gonna thank me for that later. Just really map this stuff out, and make sure you understand what you're getting yourself into. And if you want something that essentially is gonna be geared up for an acquisition, get it done early on. Make sure fresh out of the box, it has a nice design, it has decent functionality. It looks good. It's put together correctly. It saves you from having to do the job 2 or 3 times as you start to garner that market share we talked about, and you start to discuss that, and now you need to, it's just a different point in the game. It's easy to do it when it's a concept than when you're when you're redesigning and making sure everything stays optimized across 50 to 100 pages. Hopefully you guys can understand that becomes a bear. So keep that in mind. Grow slow as you need. I said that. If you guys want to essentially be in, the top 300 cities in the United States or your country or whatever, it's a great plan. Just, keep in mind the associated investment. And, if you have to start with 1, 5, 10 locations, whatever, I encourage it. Start slow. You can scale as you need. Make sure you're choosing a niche that can be monetized easily. It'll deliver a return on investment for your client's business. It's I don't want to deep dive into niche selection, but make sure it's something that can really have a high perceived value when your salesperson or you pick up the phone and say, hey, I have leads in this specific industry, or for this specific service offering. And it's to say, hey, I have home painting leads, and that's cool. I'm not saying you can't monetize that, but it's a lot different if you say, hey, I have um, commercial and historical repointing leads and power washing leads, right? So it's same type of deal. A lot of painting companies might handle that, but it's a very it's that service is a lot more expensive than just a home paint job. So, keep in mind when you're doing your niche selection, make sure it has a high perceived value. Make sure it's actually going to drum up leads. You don't know how many people I deal with that have these type of lead gen sites and they don't generate calls. They go for just super dialed in, long tailed, and they get incredible rankings and no leads. So make sure it's for queries that are actually going to generate leads. It has a high perceived value for a client. Very, very important. You don't want to invest a bunch of time and money into putting this little empire together and you can't make any money off of it. Very important. Another really cool strategy, and that falls more into the can be monetized easily conversation, is a lot of people as they're getting started, and before they find a partner, someone to rent the site, or if they have a client leave and they have an opening, they have these sites built in industries where they can forward the calls to an affiliate network or a call network, or whatever nomenclature you want to utilize there. But it's in industries where they'll take the calls and you're getting shafted. I mean, you're getting 5, 10, 15 bucks a call, but at the same time, if you're generating 20, 30, 50 calls a month, 100 calls a month in some industries, 200 in others, I mean, it just depends, what you're optimized for, what you're ranking for. But to be able to sell those leads and say, hey, I have, 70 phone calls I sold for, $5, $10 a lead. I mean, it doesn't sound like much, but it's a lot better than having it sit dormant, not generate any cash. So keep that in mind as well. If you're in an industry where you can easily monetize as fast as possible as soon as the lead flow comes in, that's going to help you out a lot. So it's the basic thought process I want you guys to have. Just to recap quick, keep in mind this stuff can get super expensive. If you want to sit and, like I said, you want to do plastic surgery in the top 50 cities, you're going to have to throw some really pretty coin at that. Like I said, guys, I was in a home improvement and we dumped 10, 20,000 in a couple months, and we saw awesome results from it, but it's still a lot of work to be done. So it's definitely a long-term play to build something out huge. Don't be afraid to take it slow. Start with 1, 5, 10 locations, whatever you can handle. Go as slow as you need. Set your goals in the early stage. I can't push that enough, guys. It's the worst time to decide, hey, we want a major site revamp, is when you have to worry about the optimization and the migration and making sure you don't lose any SEO value over 100 location pages or 50 location pages. It's so much easier just to get the high level of design done early on, and I tell you guys that from experience. So learn from my mistake. It's definitely a pain in the ass for sure to have to manage that once you already have a ton of locations that are ranking and generating calls, and some of them are monetized, and to start making those changes, it's a very tedious, time consuming, and stressful position to be in, doing massive site overhauls on that type of scale. So with with your business model already running along. So just save yourselves the stress, get it done early on. If you want it to really stand out, look nice, be I'm a little authority and a little junior authority in your specified niche, then go ahead and get it done early on. And that's about it, guys. Just be intelligent about the niche selection, and that's it, guys. I'm not going to drag this out any farther. Just wanted to get those foundational points across, and I'll catch you in the next video. Thanks. Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back. So I want to cover the two main ways you can structure sites for multi-location lead gen properties. And so this first scenario right here, which is, it's pretty simple. This is assuming you have one main trade and multiple locations. So in this case, roofing guys. So let's start at the beginning. For this type of setup, and all transparency, this is the setup we usually go with. The next setup is a lot more complex. There's a lot more moving pieces, but it's equally as great. So we'll cover it. But as you can see, we go for PMD here. So we have like roofingguys.com. So we're going to have the keyword in there. And notice we don't have the keyword in any of the rest of the URL structure. I've actually been seeing over-optimized and kind of spammy URL structures showing in the top of the SERPs again recently, and within the past few months. But we're always going to see stuff like that. It's still not what I'd consider best practice, so I try to stay as under-optimized as possible. I really hate if I'm mid-campaign and it's just a silly little over-optimization mistake like that ends up triggering an algorithmic panda filter or something, and then we're kind of digging around. We actually just had a site like that. It had the keyword in the URL twice, once in the PMD root and then our main URL, and then once in the actual target ranking page, and it was stuck at the top of page 2 forever. Simple 301 to an under optimized URL. Bang! It's now middle of page 1, so nice jump. But regardless. So I like to choose a PMD. So let's just start right there with site structure. I like the PMD. You guys can see in the URLs, they're very clean. They're very unoptimized. So homepage is going to link out to miscellaneous pages. We're going to actually cover that in the content and extras video, which is the module after this one. So that's going to be your franchise, quote unquote franchise information, your company mission statement, all the cool stuff I'm going to show you guys to make your site look like a real authority. Show you some cool ways of grabbing that stuff without having to invest a ton of money in research and content creation. We're going to do some sneaky stuff. But essentially, what I want to draw your attention to is the blog. Very, very simple here, guys. This is how we structure any blog. Your posts, and of course, there's an example of the 3 ways roofers do stuff. That's probably a pretty comprehensive piece. That's going to link over, interlink, of course, over to your city pages. So for this, we actually have a locations page. So it is going to be roofingguides.com/locations. It's going to have a list of the cities, and we've had success with literally a list. A list of cities that hyperlink to the city pages. I do encourage you to build them out in a nicer fashion. It's just a lot more sustainable. And of course, it links out to the city. City 1, Los Angeles. City 2, New York. City 3, Seattle. It doesn't really matter, whatever. These are going to be your target ranking cities, obviously. So, roofing contractor, Los Angeles roofers, roofing in Los Angeles, those type of terms. That's some of the top queries we're going to be ranking that for. City 2, same type of thing, except City 2, very basic, guys. No rocket science there. We're going to use the blog to interlink over. And I'll show you guys why I like this structure. It's a very, very basic silo, and I'll show you why, because it gives us a lot of freedom when we link build. And there's a lot of stuff we can do to really add another dynamic to the link building element. So I do like this setup, guys. This is the most simple. It really is the most simplistic way you're going to be able to set this up. This next slide I'm going to show you. again, if you really want to build out this is a very beefy. It's going to be an authority site for sure. But I want to cover it, so in case that is the route you guys want to go, I want you to have the knowledge to move forward with that. So this is assuming we have um, this is assuming we have multiple cities and each city is going to offer multiple services, okay? So this gets huge. Now it looks the same, but it's not at all. So here's where we change. We go from PMD to brand.com. So this could be, for this specific conversation, let's say it's like USA Exteriors or, exteriorsolutions.com, whatever. The theme of the site is going to be exteriors, right? Roofing, siding, windows, gutters, and I mean the list goes on. It's a very, very vast micro niche within home improvement that is home to just tons of micro niches. So there's a lot of horizontal growth for this site. It could turn into a massive authority site, which, again, guys, if you're going to go with this type of structure, really pace yourself. I don't suggest saying, hey, we're going to do 50 cities and each city is going to have 10 different exterior services. I mean, you guys can see that's going to become a money pit, and it's really going to, unless you have a large operating team and the work flows seamless for you, it's going to burn you out early. So I do change to brand.com, and that's because I'm going to have my keyword here at the end. See, we have the services and the city's going to appear. So I don't want this any city. Obviously, no city. There's multiple cities and not a specific service. So, it doesn't make sense to stick that in there at this point. Keep it brand, exteriors.com, whatever. Beautiful home exteriors, whatever, guys. I'm just spitballing here, and then we're actually going to get the keyword value in the URL from the city page is going to be a category page, so you can see city 1, that's Los Angeles. So over here we'd have city 2 and then service 1, 2, 3 under that. So that would be New York, and then roofing company, siding contractor. So that makes sense for you guys, hopefully. Again, guys, everything else stays pretty much the same. It's just it's going to be a lot more pages, it's a lot more work, it's a lot more to rank, but essentially, I mean, you would be building a nice size authority site here. So keep in mind, if that's the route you want to go, the instead of the city page being the city page isn't going to be dynamic. The city page is going to move the category. So if you have you're doing 10 cities here, and each city has 10 services, 5 services, it doesn't matter. You're going to have 10 different categories. It's going to represent the cities, and then they're going to have their respective services page. Again, guys, just pace yourself. If you want to do this, I'd suggest doing one city at a time. If you want to do 5 services per that one city, get it done, get it monetized, start to scale it, grow slow. Don't burn yourself out. Don't burn your team out. Don't be that guy. Or gal. So basically, same thing with the blog. It changes to brand.com/blog/ very intuitive and phenomenal content here. So same thing, it's going to be interlinking to however you want to do it. You're going to be able to link build directly to the category pages. I mean, not a lot changes here, guys. It's just going to be a little bit beefier. It's a little bit more content to worry about. It's a lot more ranking. So I did want to cover it, though. It's not a massive change, but I know I had that question a few times too. So hopefully, just with this module, we're going to clear up a lot of the questions we have with site structure when dealing with multi-location and multi-service platforms. So thanks a lot, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.
Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Mark with Local Client Takeover, back again for the content and extras section of the Multi-Location Takeover Volume 1 Lead Generation Properties module. That was a mouthful. But I'm back on my normal machine I use for recording, so hopefully the quality's a lot better, and we can get started. So basically today I want to talk about specifically content, where I'm going to show you my exact content strategy, because it was probably up there with the URL structure. It's definitely one of the most asked questions vis-a-vis anything multi-location. So I'm going to show you guys my exact content strategy, and then how you can so my content strategies is it's an MVP, and that means most viable product. It's how I can get a finished product together that I can push to market ASAP and start to monetize. Okay, I do tell you in the previous video to put a lot into your design at first. That way, you're not doing you know, a design overhaul on a several hundred page site. It might as well get that done early. But as far as content, you can do a content overhaul, and I suggest you do so. um, and again, it's another thing you can learn from one of my, I don't know if I'd call it a mishap, but we had an attorney multi-site where we spent almost $10,000 in content before we made a penny. So it's easy for high quality content to really bleed your budget. So I'm going to show you guys the cheapest, most, you know, ease of implementation, quickest to market kind of strategy we use for content on these things. And then in the following, I'm actually going to give you the extras where I'm going to show you how either from the get go or as you monetize the site and start to turn it into a lucrative venture, you can start to really turn it into an authoritative looking brand aside from just the design. um, to kind of essentially, like we said, pique the interest of a niche authority that might want to acquire your brand, and just to make it more valuable for your partners. So, something that looks more professional is going to be prone to generate more leads. People are going to engage with your brand better. Lots of other good stuff, and maybe one of the most important is the more of these boxes you tick and kind of get done, it's more likely your site is going to pass manual reviews from a Google team. So let's get started. I'm going to show you guys my exact content strategy right here. Here's as easy as it gets. I create the city pages I want to rank. It's duplicate content, right? So it's going to be one article that I have someone really take some time on. It's built to convert, right? It's exactly the optimal article you'd want on any local business page you'd want to try to rank, right? It's built for conversions. We duplicate this across every city page you want to rank, and then of course all we change is the city and state. That's it. Um, a lot of people say, "Wait, am I going to get penalized?" No. Um, there's also a misconception with that people say local doesn't hold any type of duplicate content penalties, and that's not necessarily true. If you go back and really excogitate the patent, it's more based on the intent of the query. So a lot of the more commercial, local queries that have a commercial intent don't really hold the duplicate penalty, because Google understands that. First off, Google let it be public knowledge that around 25% of their index is duplicate content, and I'd say that number's exponentially increasing day to day just with the immense amount of content that gets published on the internet. So they already let you know they understand duplicate content, something that's kind of going to start to be um, an unavoidable issue. How many times can you explain a dentist in a city, right? How many different ways can we write about a plastic surgeon in a city, or a dentist, a roofer? There's only so many ways, so they kind of lift the duplicate content penalties for those type of queries, more out of understanding. And then furthermore, they don't really give you a quote unquote penalty anymore. They try to figure out who was the original publisher of the article and canonicalize the other versions of that article to the main article, kind of like a citation, where it's like, this is where it all started, if that makes sense. So I guess that wasn't all needed, but I do want you guys to understand why we do this, why it's safe to do this, and I don't see this changing anytime in the future, just because like I said, if you do some look up on some statistics of how much content gets published onto the web every day, it's incredible. It's going to become more and more difficult for Google to really figure out what's truly duplicate, like copy and paste, and what was just written about a similar topic, and thus it's very similar, if that makes sense. So it's safe to do. It works very well. And After we do that, now we do like to add 500 to 1,000 words of unique content inside of an accordion on each city page. This is lower quality content, okay? There's no spelling issues. It's checked for any just heinous grammatical errors. But it's not, we don't have a writer come in and we don't pay someone 20, 30, $50 an article, or go get someone from the call to copy job board and pay them $150 to kind of craft this thing. I mean, it's a $5 deal for my writer. It's a 375 for my writer. It's low quality. It's a quick spot check. Um, you can make it specifically about the city if you'd like. You can make it specifically about the niche. You can make it specifically about either or. It doesn't really matter. Both or nothing, whatever. However you want to set that up. We've done combinations. If you can find a cheap writer, you should be able to. Maybe you can custom order on iWriter. It's been so long since I've used that, but if you can get a custom article for each page that's excuse me, specific to the city and the niche, that would be great. That's optimal. You have 500 to 1,000 unique words about that. Um, and then keep in mind, guys, we can improve upon this. Once it's already monetized, we're making money with it. It's a lucrative endeavor. We can come back and have a writer and say, hey, we'll give you $100 per page. Go ahead and start cleaning them up, and you can, the 5 or 10 pages you have monetized, you can drop 500 or $1,000 and have a higher quality content if you'd like, or however you want to do things. We drip interlink content out to the blog. We utilize, if you check out the social autopilot post I made on local client takeover with Chaz doing some videos, Chaz and I. You can use that exact same strategy here with the IFTT networks wired up, so the content syndicates and it builds backlinks and social juice. I used a low quality content for this. It's basically just to show activity. Um, it's a fine line there where it's you're in a position where you can use a higher quality content, and it might be it's going to be a little bit better if someone does do a manual review. But again, we're talking about MVP. It's quickest to market. It's quickest to kind of boost the SEO. We use a low quality. Um, and I'm just full transparency. We never really upgrade the blog content that much. So it's one of the weaker points, but we've been having stellar results just from how we're doing it. Number four is probably the coolest thing, just because in this next section I'm gonna show you guys a bunch of stuff I recommend doing to your site just to make it look like a real brand, a real corporate entity that has all of these locations and services all of these areas. So I'm going to show you guys some things. It's essential. It's essential if you want that to happen. Um, so basically, the content we need for these type of pages, which, like, again, I'll show you in the next slide. We swipe the content from existing authoritative sites. So if it'd be like franchise information, we just swipe the content. Any minor tweaks that need made, like obviously we'd pull their company name out and put ours in, and then just no index the page. That way you're not, again, you're not going to worry about Google saying, hey, we saw this content here, and not that it would probably even matter. It's just safer for us to no index it, because it avoids any future problem with having something that isn't a commercial query or isn't commercialized on the website being followed. And that might just be a paranoia thing on my part, but it's how we do it. Also, if you find a larger brand, if a larger brand would find you swipe their content by having it indexed, um, you could potentially run into some BS there where they cease and desist or DMCA takedown. So that's probably even more important than anything pertaining to Google. But we swipe the content, we build the page, it saves us money, time, planning, and we're on to the next one. So here's pretty much an authoritative brand checklist. So this is having these things kind of builds the quintessential authoritative looking brand, right? So let's start with design. A logo, guys. You spend 10, 15, $20 on Fiverr, you get a nice looking logo. It doesn't have to be this artisan type setup. Grab a logo, make it look nice, professional looking website. I'd make it look nice right here. And again, if there's nice WordPress themes that can accomplish a lot of your goals. But if there's anything I spent on early on, and if we really had the budget, I'd do a professional looking website. I'd make sure the city pages were set up nice so we recreate them and they look exactly how we want. I would make sure the blog pages looked exactly how I wanted. I'd make a really nice website. I'd also have it set up so it's something that would be cheap and somewhat easy to customize in case we wanted to twist some city pages around and kind of quantify how conversion metrics are affected when we do that. You can do your CRO. You don't have to, hire a specialized developer to do the CRO for you and stuff. You can put it just to you can put it to just about any team. Downloadable marketing materials, stuff like PDFs, brochures, pamphlets, etc. Um, White papers, any type of thing like that. It might seem silly. It looks awesome for a manual review. It looks awesome when a fellow niche authority is looking at your site and seeing it. You're kind of positioned as a real website, a real brand. Again, it's very cheap, guys. Fiverr gigs, 5, 10, $20. You can have yourself something nice. Branded social profile. So, of course, we need to have the social profiles, which we cover, but spend the $5, spend the $10, get the skins made for them, make it look like your company actually cares. A real corporate, large company in 2016, if they're serious about their digital presence, is going to have these things in place. So go ahead and get them. Just as part of the design, a clients we have worked with page showing authoritative clients builds trust for the user. Looks great for a manual review. As featured on, if that floats your boat, I mean, it's authoritative positioning looks great. Credentials we have earned. It could be A+ ratings from the Better Business Bureau. Any type of niche directory things usually have a little upsell where you get XYZ brand certified. Stuff like that looks great. Looks great for a manual review. Um, it's going to just improve the quality of your site. And a lot of this isn't, SEO related. It's just going to make your site look a lot better for the acquisition or for the manual review. Give it a corporate feel. Again, this is kind of, you have to go back to the initial video where we talk about planning and what's the end goal of the site. If you just want to throw something together and to drum up some leads, you can skip a lot of this stuff, guys. It's not essential. If you want to build a multi-location, brand that could essentially get bought, or you really want to you really care, you want it to be sustainable in case of a manual review or something, then the corporate field stuff's awesome. A 1-800 number with a phone directory. You can get one from Freedom Voice. They're cheap. They're very cheap. They work great. Corporate office address. Again, you're looking at something like a virtual office. Make it look like it's in a really nice office building. Glassdoor reviews. This is kind of getting, this is like some next level stuff, but it's basically reviews from employees you had. Indeed listings, hiring listings, real companies hire. Have stuff like that out. You don't have to answer the applications or anything, but having that out there looks good. Then the SSL. I mean, it just looks nice. It looks like you really care. Looks like, excuse me. It looks like you're ready to take it to the next level. You have your security certificates for the domain. That's a great start. Authoritative backlinks, and this kind of goes in with the Glassdoor and Indeed stuff as well. Is if you're in a manual reviewer, people are really looking at the for the legitimacy of your company. They can Google your company name, right? It's a pretty good start. So having citations, social properties, press releases, gnome style links, guest posts, anything authoritative. You don't have to go crazy here, guys. How many pages back is a typical user going to click? I mean, typically they don't click to page 2 statistically, but someone that's really trying to do some in-depth search on your brand might click 5 pages in, 10 pages in. You're only at 50 or 100 links, right? It's a citation package, some social properties from Web 20, a press release, and you're done. You don't even have to take it to that next level if you don't want, with the guest posts, gnome style link packages. Even though Marketer Center has a cheap social foundations package you could grab that would be stellar. So, just when someone searches, it's going to be like, wow. Plus, of course, you're starting your backlinking all to the homepage, branded links. You start increasing the authority of your homepage, which again is going to trickle down to your city pages, as you can see from the how we structure our link building in the previous videos. So, it's a good start. It kind of serves multiple purposes to get that stuff done early, make sure the links are indexed, have them looking nice, and then you're boosting the authority of the page, and you also look like a real brand when someone Googles you, right? Two birds with one stone. Specific web pages. This is what I talked about in the last slide of, if you need some content for this type of stuff, don't plan it out, don't hire it out to an expensive freelancer, just copy, paste, and no index. Careers pages, real companies hire, human resources, real companies have them. About the team pages, testimonial pages, franchise opportunities, all kinds of stuff like that, guys. The sky's the limit. Make it look like a real site. If I'm sitting at my desk at Google and I'm doing a search of your site and it's getting a manual review, and I see you guys have franchises and there's testimonials and there's career pages and it's about the team, and it really looks like you're a real company, it's not to say that we're still not going to look at your links, and there could be some type of ramification depending on the sustainability of your link building campaign. But I'm not going to immediately say, hey, this is a lead gen site. If I look at a SERP Shaker site, or I look at just a quick multi-site thrown together just to spam a bunch of leads for a client or partner or an affiliate network, whatever someone's doing, someone can kind of look and say, hey, this isn't a real site. Then you don't get a chance. If I can look at your site and within the first 2 minutes say, I'm not convinced this is even a real site. You just failed the manual review. You're getting de-indexed. Bye bye rankings. Bye bye income. Right? So having stuff like this can really help. And this isn't just for multi-site guys. This is just in general. If you set your websites up to look like authoritative brands, you're going to be leaps and bounds ahead of your competition. Um, it's not to say they're not going to say, hey, this is on natural link building and hand you a manual penalty for that. But it is to say that you'll at least get to that stage. You're not going to lose the game in the first 2 minutes when someone can say, yeah, obviously this isn't a real site. Miscellaneous legitimate site pages, privacy policies, terms of service, disclosure pages. Disclosure pages, it's more for like the attorney niche. We have to disclose that we are not actual attorneys. We are an advertising slash marketing company. You have to disclose that. So, if you're in an industry where it requires any of those three or additional pages, make sure to get it done. Don't get yourself shut down over something silly. And then as far as content, guys, I know we talked a lot about content, but we have the blog content that drips out, unique content per page that I showed you guys the easy way to grab that. Have a syndicate to social profiles, keeps your profiles active, your blogs active. It looks like a real site. Like I said, guys, you're 100 miles ahead of your competition at this point. Even if you follow 50% of this stuff, it's people aren't going to look and say, hey, the social profiles are dead, there's no blog posts. It's the site looks like it was generated with a WordPress plugin, doesn't offer any value to the index, doesn't even look like a real company. I can't find the about team. I don't know if they're hiring. It's stuff like that. It'll get you it'll get you a manual penalty before they even get a chance to check your SEO out. So I'm sorry this one ran a little bit long, guys, but this is pretty big. I want to show you guys. We went over the architecture, so we planned it out. We got the niche. We went over the architecture of the site, stuff like that. Now here's what you put inside that architecture. Here's kind of how you build it out. This is this is building lead gen properties for 2020. If you're not ready to make them look like real brands, um, you're doing yourself a disservice, and you're essentially building short-term income because Google wants to rank authoritative brands. So alright guys, we'll catch you in the next one. We're going to go over another fun part, which is a bunch of link building. Unfortunately, it's not going to be quite as long because it's pretty cut and dry. So I'll catch you in the next one, guys. Thanks. Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back. It's Mark with Local Client Takeover, and today we're going to be talking about link building for our multiple location sites. Lots of fun, right? Truth be told, there's not a whole lot of difference from building links to these sites as opposed to building them for single location sites. Biggest thing we have to keep in mind is something I've been preaching since the first intro video, and that is the planning portion. Okay, so consider, you know, if you try to scale too fast or grow too quickly, you're not just going to be doing link building to one site or 5 sites, quote unquote. It's going to be to 50. So, keep it make sure your expectations and your goals align with your investment. Okay, so if you want to start with one, start with five, whatever. Just make sure you can afford it. Make sure you can afford to push these onto the front page and monetize. You know, before you invest a ton of cash and you kind of get halfway on 30 or 40 different pages, and then you kind of lose steam. So link building is very simple for these. Potential, I guess, places to build the links to are the home page, the locations page, which are going to have the list of your locations, each individual city page, and then, of course, blog posts if you so wish to use them as buffers. I love this because you can use the locations page and the blog post as essentially buffers in between your tier one links and your actual target ranking page, the individual city page. So first thing I like to do is throw an IFTTT network and a few tier 2s into the mix. Jump over to Web20, they'll get it all built for you. All the recipes will be put together. That also mitigates the social syndication aspect of things we spoke about in the last video. So essentially, your blog posts are going to get syndicated, excuse me, to IF, your tier 1 network. It's going to get links back to here. You can also strategically place links in the contents to in the blog post, so it interlinks back through the page. It can help juice up these other pages, and that's the first thing I like to do, not just with multi-location but any site. And if you really plan your content out and you're interlinking intelligently, you can get a lot of links, a lot of power getting pushed through these sites just with this one method. um, Next thing is build authority to the homepage. The homepage for us is what we build the top dog links to. It's where we're going to get the Better Business Bureau links and the guest posts. So if it was in the service industry, that's where the Porch.com and the House.com would be, pointing to that homepage. The higher level of just like Noam style links and the press releases. Now we can do that on individual city pages as well, but you want to make sure you get your citations up here and lots of authoritative links, because essentially the more authority your homepage builds, and it's going to drip downstream. Obviously we know that from the interlinking, but when you build new location pages on this, we found with our domains that were just nicely juiced up over time, and lots of authoritative link building just to the city pages that interlink and the home pages. Um, when you build a new page on this site, it's going to rank in the top couple pages just naturally, just with the content, the on-page optimization, and the authority from the domain. That page is gonna index within the top few pages, which it's a big help. It already has the age of the domain. It almost is like a parasite where you can start building, and it just gives you a little bit of a head start. So don't neglect building lots of authoritative links to that home page. Keep it branded, keep it really clean. Of course, you can use the locations page as buffers. This is really awesome because this has all the links to all of the city pages, right? And every city page is going to be hyperlinked out from this locations page. So again, if you build authoritative links to this page, it's going to drip into all of your city pages. It's just going to help build authority to all of your pages, and it's a really, really solid strategy. Of course, build direct to the city pages, nothing crazy there. Just make sure you're being mindful of, and this isn't just for multi-location, it's for, any site you build links to. Keep in mind, Google does have individual page filters now, so you can get one page in trouble on your site while the rest are okay. So keep your anchor text diversified, keep it sustainable, make sure you keep track of where you're building each of these links to, so you can kind of just stay organized with it so you don't accidentally over optimize. And keep in mind, when you have all of these blog posts and stuff pointing here, and it's going to be really easy to build links to the blog post where you can get a little more aggressive. So instead of saying, hey, I'm going to drop 75 PBN links to my city page this month and try to just slam it to the top, where you can essentially get yourself in trouble there. You can drip in 20 over the month to the city page, and you can drip the the remaining 55 in through a few different blog posts that point to the city page. So it acts as a buffer. From a velocity perspective, it's not an unnatural amount of link slamming to one page, so you can be creative, and that's, essentially going to give you guys really good results. And last but not least, you can definitely power up the networks as well. I know people that are doing spam to the tier 2 using software solutions, and that's giving them good results. Of course, your tier 1 profiles, you can build links to that to kind of push everything up. And again, there isn't anything about a multi-location strategy that you have to, that's going to be a whole lot different from building links to a typical site. Just make sure you leverage the locations page. It's a great way to get a ton of link juice dripping into all the city pages simultaneously, where, if you build you know 50 links over 2 months to that locations page, it's a little bit of that juice is going to drip to each city page you have built. And of course, just keep building the authority to the home page. It's going to just help the overall health. It's going to help when you build new pages on the site, and it's just going to help in general to have a nice authoritative branded home page. And of course, just be mindful of your anchor text and stuff direct to the city. Don't be afraid to use the blog post as a specific blog post as a buffer and build links to that going to a city page. And that's pretty much it, guys. It's pretty straightforward. I did just want to cover it that way it would kind of preemptively answer any questions you might have about it. Thanks a lot, guys.